All right, welcome everybody to a tier list video. We've done many tier list videos in the past. Today's is going to be covering all of the heroes that we currently have in CC, including the new Uprising heroes, because everybody wants to know where everything's going to be standing now that we've lost Chain and we've lost Starvo. And we've gained Dromai, Fi, and Icelander. So we've gained 3 heroes and lost 2, so the meta is going to change completely, especially since the 2 that were lost were the 2 best heroes in all of Flesh and Blood. So it's going to be a really interesting format. I'm joined with Josh, Nam, Nathan, and Kyle. So we've got 5 out of the 6 here today, missing Sebastian, sadly, but he'll be with us for some future videos. It's disappointing not to have him here to talk about his baby Chain gone, but I know he's going to be hurting about that one. But yeah, if you guys aren't subscribed to the channel already and you do enjoy this kind of content, make sure to subscribe. We also have a Patreon and our affiliates with TCG Player. We leave all those links in the description down below. So if you're ever buying cards online, it doesn't cost you anything. You just plug in our TCG affiliate and we get a little kickback from that. So we appreciate all of you there. And we release a ton of really good content on Patreon. So please check us out on there if you can, and we'll get right into this video. Josh, do you want to tell us a little bit about this tier list we've got going here?
Sure. So we've arranged the tier list by using numbers this time, as opposed to S, A, B, C, D, E. So tier 1, these are going to be the most competitive heroes. These are the heroes that you're most likely to see at events, and these are the heroes that are most likely to go far in tournaments, and they're going to make up a majority of the winners metagame. Tier 1.5 heroes, these are the heroes that can compete with the tier 1 heroes, but they might just be lacking a little bit of raw power compared to tier 1, or they might have a bad matchup against a particular deck in tier 1 that kind of holds them back. Tier 2, this is where quite a few heroes will occupy. These heroes are generally viable. However, it will take an exceptional pilot or an exceptional run to go very far in a tournament and win. Down here in 2.5 and 3, these are generally decks that we are going to advise against playing at a competitive tournament. These are heroes that either are lacking in terms of their card pool, they have awkward mechanics that hold them back, or they have absolutely atrocious matchups against the tier 1 and tier 1.5, or a combination of those things. So as you can see, we have all the heroes here. Of course, notably, Starvo and Chain are not present here. We have our WTR heroes. We have our ARC heroes here. We have our Monarch heroes without Chain. We have our
Tales of Aria.
Tales of Aria. And finally, we have the 3 new heroes that Alex mentioned. We have Dromai, Fi, and Icelander. So when we make these tier videos, generally what we like to do is try to establish a couple pillars, things that we are more sure about, and then we kind of progress to the heroes that we are less sure about. So I think in general, we are going to leave these 3 for later, because
I think that's good.
I think in general, we are the least sure about those. So is there any hero that jumps out at you guys as clearly tier 1, either a deck that was tier 1 last season and continues to be strong, or a deck that was oppressed heavily by Chain and Starvo and was kind of in the 1.52, and this is now their break?
I think we just have to give it to Prism still, right?
Definitely Prism glues up.
I think the main reason we have to talk about Prism, right, is it also has 850 living legend points. So that's a testament to how powerful that deck has been for such a long time, and I don't foresee any of these 3 decks really, taking away from that tier 1 slot. If Prism can compete with the 2 best decks in Starvo and Chain, it's for sure going to be able to compete with these decks because it's so adaptable.
We noticed that even in hostile metagames, such as back in US finals, like you would still see some Prisms at the top tier tables. So she's definitely a hero that you can never count out. Do we think that with the new illusionist cards, they significantly improve her deck?
I don't think so.
Yeah, that one card's okay, but the semblance or something like that.
Yeah, the delete phantasm. I mean,
Yeah,
I don't think it's the fact of new cards. I think it's the fact that she effectively got like 6 to 7 sideboard slots freed up with Starvo and Chain gone.
100%
Because
agree.
now she doesn't have to do the whole aggro into Chain or try to fatigue him. So it just now she can do what she wants to do into anybody.
Yes.
And I think that's where we're going to see the power increase for sure.
And it'll be interesting with the Dromai being a new deck. I don't know if people are going to anticipate her taking a portion of the meta share, but with how important 6 power cards are against Dromai, I don't know if Prism would take a small hit there, even though Prism is very good at playing around 6 poppers anyway. But I don't know if that's going to be impactful, but at least it's something to think about.
Do we think Prism will be built more Aura style or more Herald style?
I think that'll depend on how big Oldhim is in the meta. If Oldhim starts to take up, a big chunk of the meta to take that Guardian slot that we're going to be missing now that Starvo's gone, I think that the auras are still going to be very, very powerful. Not to mention they're just powerful in general. So it's hard to say that because you could see even Aura Prism was beating decks like Briar and things like that at the Pro Tour. So if that can compete with a deck like Briar, it can compete with most anything. So.
Okay, is there any cards from Uprising that present a threat to Prism? The first one that jumps out is Erase Face, but is there any other cards that present a particular problem to Prism?
Phoenix Flame. 3/1 power attacks historically have been very good against Prism.
The ninja arms, right? Pretty much the damage can't be prevented, so if you can attack over something.
Yeah, so they'll pop all the shields.
It kills all the shields. That card could be.
Can you explain that
hurtful
for people that haven't seen that interaction before?
Oh, me? Oh no, this is bad.
Live judge test here.
I'm not the person to ask for this,
okay. So basically, the arm piece says that the second attack damage can't be prevented on the second attack. This doesn't mean that you cannot block the attack. You can block the attack. That is not damage prevention. But any damage that would leak over, that Spectral Shields would normally eat, they will check. They will pop, but they cannot prevent, so they will each pop, and it will just pop all of the shields because the damage can't be prevented. So it's a pretty interesting interaction, but unlikely that it's going to resolve if Prism knows that is a thing. So
it works the same way as swarming, right?
Yep,
exactly. Yeah.
All right, so it'll be interesting to see if at the end of our video whether Prism is actually at the top of tier 1.
Yeah,
there's a couple of heroes that push her towards the middle or bottom of tier 1. We'll see. Is there any hero that jumps out at you guys as clearly tier 3?
Azalea,
yeah.
She was tier 3, and there's nothing from the set that
not much to talk about there.
Unfortunate.
Also, Levia. Just kidding. Don't flame me, man. Sam, don't do it, please. I repent.
I think the card guys is wrong.
We'll talk about Levia later. So, yeah, not much to say about Azalea. The core mechanics of Azalea is just you have to jump through a lot of hoops to do mediocre damage with sometimes relevant on-hit effects. She'll
not much to say other than that, right?
I mean, she has 0 living legend points for a reason. So
even Levia got some in Pro Quest 2 season. So
okay, so we have our bookends here. So let's see if we can establish a tier 2 hero here. What feels like the most middle of the road hero out of all of these here.
I'd have to give it to like either like Reinar or Viscera, maybe.
Reinar was the first one that came to mind for me.
Reinar. Yeah, let's do Reinar.
Okay, tell me about Reinhardt and why you would put him in tier 2.
Nathan?
Well, Reinar can do cute stuff against Prism, right? He has the claws and scabby play to manage auras, although, you know, one bad die roll can kind of fizzle that strategy out, but it's there. He has all the poppers in the world for Dromai, if that ever becomes a thing. Also, if Oldhim ever breaks out, or if after our TN season we lose Prism due to LL, Reinar becomes... Oldham's going to have a choice. Does he go aggro, or does he lose to Reinar is the ultimate question. So he in the current spot, he doesn't... Reinar's always a counter meta pick. He's never going to dominate any format, and right now he's kind of in that spot to where he's only countering half the field, it feels like. So that's why I'd put him at 2.
So with the new Briar versus Dorinthea classic battles, so I've talked with the Reinhardt player, and he said that the card pack call is a decent upgrade. It's a yellow 6 power 3 block, allows you to when you defend with it, you get to reveal the top card, and if it has 6 or more power, you can keep it on top, or you put it on the bottom if it's not. So it kind of ensures that whole mechanic of draw, discard. So that would help things go again, get dominate, or
Wild Ride, Pulping, all those guys.
Yeah, it helps the consistency a lot.
Yep. But that's only 3 out of 60 cards, so it's a nice bump, but yeah. So we think Reinar is kind of a middle of the road.
Yeah,
Can get things done. Needs a talented, dedicated pilot to get things done.
Yep.
Yeah,
I think it's kind of that, like, you could play something worse, but you could also play something better kind of situation.
Also, the intimidate mechanic, I guess he used to be kind of lower in tier 2. I'd say he crept up in tier 2 because of the pack call, but also because the 2 heroes that are gone, they didn't care about the intimidate mechanic anyways. They didn't want to block anyways. Chain and Starvo generally wanted to keep their whole hand anyways. So yeah, I would say I would agree that Reinhardt's moved up and is a good representation of what tier 2 is. All right, what hero do we want to talk about next?
Josh, I want to hear from you about your 2 warriors.
Let's do it.
All right. I'm gonna hold off on talking about Bolton.
Okay.
Because I think the way Bolton is built is he's actually quite bad against ice heroes, and we just saw a bunch of new ice cards.
Right.
So the position of Oldhim, Lexi, and Icelander will actually dictate Bolton's position, I think. However, if we don't see much ice heroes in the metagame, I think Bolton is quite good. But I want to kind of see where we put these 3, and then I'll talk about Bolton. As for Dorinthea, I think Dorinthea used to be... Well, I could tell you one thing. Dorinthea is waiting for her to go.
Yep.
This is a hero that is gate kept Dorinthea for a year now.
We can say the same thing about Briar. I mean, not Briar. Bravo.
So there are... I'm going to put Dory at top of tier 2, maybe bottom tier 1.5. We'll see where we'll in my hands, she'll be 1.5, but so I'll put it
if I do say so myself.
Let me give you my logic here. Okay. So first of all, with Starvo gone, people are going to take out their immovables. That was already like one of the most annoying things ever for Dorinthea, is the fact that this hero that basically demanded you to run 12 sideboard cards for D-Reacts also happened to be very good. It also happens to be very, very good against Dorinthea, right? So the fact that people are probably not going to run unmovables, they're probably going to run. I mean, people are probably still going to run Sink Below. They might run another D-React, maybe not. But people are probably going to make room for the new D-React. Is that all you got?
That all you got?
Yeah.
Card's good.
So I think
good.
that is actually going to, because that card just has so much value against Prism, against Katsu, against Phi, even against maybe even Dash.
I
right?
mean, it's also good in Prism.
Yeah.
Is
So
it gonna be a good Bolton card as well? Maybe.
Yeah, I could see it being used in the combo deck. It just speeds up anything that gets you to your combo faster is nice.
Right.
And in general, I would say though, in general, you don't die as Bolton by 1,000 cuts, because by the time it takes them to cut you 20 times, you've already comboed off on them, right?
Right.
Anyway, so the sideboarding metagame is favorable for Dorinthea. Okay. She also had a very hard matchup against Chain, especially if the Chain knew what he was doing. So I would say that those are two positive things. Also, the new cards from the Reinhardt versus Dorinthea deck, these are really, really strong. Glistening Steelblade is one of the best cards ever printed for her. The fact that she now has access to 2 different weapons, both with the Dawnblade name, is huge. Dawnblade Resplendent, I think, is a very, very powerful card, but you need to build your deck around it. So my current build of Dorinthea involves running both Dawnblade and Dawnblade Resplendent based on the matchup. So for aggro matchups, I would lean towards the original Dawnblade. For more controlling matchups, like against Guardian, I would bring in Dawnblade Resplendent and a couple Remembrances, and I would play for the very, very long game. And she also got a couple of other new cards. Run Through is not bad at all. Now when you swing Naked Dawnblade, it doesn't indicate Glint or Bolters. It can be Glint, Bolters, or Run Through. So
Got its own Blade Runner. It's pretty good.
Yep. So yeah, Yellow Blade Runner for two-handed weapons is nice. There's also Blade Flash, which is the blue 1 cost gives your. So actually, it can be 4 things now. It can be Bolters, Glint, Blade Flash, or Run Through. And just in general, I think Glistening Steelblade actually is enough of a boost, because that card is so threatening and has unconditional go again. If you just put Glistening Steelblade into Arsenal and you wait for Singing Steelblade or Twinning Blade, they're in a lot of trouble. Like when you play Glistening Steelblade into swing, and they don't, even if they have a D-React, if you have a blue, you can go fish for Overpower or Route, depending on how they play their hand, or you can go grab Twinning Blade and go around their attack, and then if they overblock, right?
Yep.
So and with the Dawnblade Resplendent, those counters are permanent, and with Remembrance, potentially you have 9 or 12 copies of Glistening Steelblade. So one of the issues with the old Dorinthea is that you only had 15 threats in your deck. You had your Red Warrior's Valor, you had your Yellow Warrior's Valor, you had your Steelblade Supremacy, and you had Spoils of War. And that actually, you only had 12. And you actually only had 12 threats in your deck. Now you have at baseline 15 in the aggro matchup, potentially up to 27 in the controlling matchups. That's a ridiculous amount of threat. And now, in the aggro matchups, people are going to have to decide whether or not they really want to race you with Glistening Steelblade. Like that card is extremely strong. And in the control matchups, the Glistening Steelblade combined with Dawnblade Resplendent means every single time it hits, it's going to stay there as a permanent board state. And against the Guardians, I'm probably going to run near 70 cards with 2, possibly 3 Remembrances. I'm going to play for the very, very long game. They probably aren't running a bajillion D-Reacts unless Dory gets very popular or the other Guardians get very, very popular. So I think you could deal with the Guardians or the more defensive matchups, even Oldhim. I think you can handle it. So yeah, I would put her bottom tier 1.5, high tier 2 at the moment. We'll leave her in 1.5 for now. All right, and like I said, we'll talk about Bolton later because I think he's contingent on the Ice Heroes. All right, let's see here. I talked for a while. Kyle, let's talk about your favorite ninja here. Where does he go?
That's my favorite ninja. I think he's tier 2.
Actually, is he your favorite ninja still?
Yeah, for sure.
Okay.
I've highly still considered playing him in coming up RTN season. I think we're gonna generally, as formats begin, historically they start a little faster than usual, right? I think Katsu fits the bill in that because it presents pretty good on-hit effects with a lot of beneficial things happening, and a lot of these decks now want to go fast. Like we have Briar that I think we're going to talk about. We have Lexi. I think we're going to talk about. It's going to be very good in this coming up format. You even have Viserai that can go burr. You got Fi that can do nuts things. They're not wanting to block, and I think Katsu gives the right amount of pressure to present as much damage as possible, as fast as possible. I think with cards like Take the Tempo, I think that card's pretty good, the 1 for 5. And then also, what's that other card, Nathan, we were talking about earlier? Double Strike?
Yep, Double Strike.
I think Double Strike adds a lot of dimensions to the deck as far as presenting multiple chain links where you can like break your chain and then try to go in it for another like mask momentum play. Just threaten a lot of draws. I do think that just the addition of that card alone is pretty freaking good. It's only.
I also want to mention.
Go ahead.
Sorry, no. You finish your thought. I will talk about something.
I think the only real awful matchups for this deck.
It's probably Oldhim.
Oldhim, but like that's maybe Lexi to a certain extent, just if she can get rolling with a lot of frostbites. That's really tough for Katsu. I really don't see
the
Dorinthea
matchup is also.
Dorinthea matchup is definitely.
If you're built as aggro Katsu, it can be kind of difficult. Yeah. I think control Katsu is.
I actually ended up playing a Dory at one of the pro quests we had, and he opened up Glistening, turn 2 Glistening, and I had 2 cards that didn't defend in my hand, and so he racked up like 3 counters in one turn. I was like, oh no, this is bad. Oh no, I got to see the power of that card real quick. But if they can do something with that card, I mean, I don't think Dorinthea's gonna lose to much of anything. But I just think his on-hit effects are very relevant as far as trying to output as much damage as possible. With the addition of the new cards, I think it keeps him solidified at tier 2. I think with a great pilot, it could do very well in a tournament, especially if the meta is very fast. And this is just assuming that the new heroes don't just outclass all of the old heroes. So I don't know. That's my take on it. I think Katsu is a safe tier 2.
I also
1.5 if it's a good pilot. But
one thing I wanted to mention is you talked about on-hit effects, and that kind of got me thinking about how in the first Vegas calling, Katsu only had CNC to break Phantasm, but now he has Erase Face as well.
So Erase Face too. Yep.
You can go like Kadachi, Erase Face, or something like you can go for a wide pattern ending with Erase Face which is quite nice. In addition to being a 6 power card, I mean, just having a 6 power card that you can actually play and you want to play in a wide attack pattern is a really, really good pickup for Katsu, I think. And it's going to be a staple sideboard card for him.
I definitely do agree with that.
Yeah.
Race face is
all right.
Pretty good.
So we'll put Katsu there for now. Nathan, let's talk about Briar.
Yeah, we can talk about Briar. You can go ahead and put her up to the top. Right behind Prism.
Here?
Probably.
Behind Prism, okay.
Yeah. I think that she's the second best deck in the format. But obviously she has a very good matchup into what I think is the best deck in the format, which is Prism. She has historically, like Oldhim and Lexi has been the tough matchup for Briar. But I think a good pilot can find their way through that match. I've found a couple tools to help against Lexi, and then Oldhim, if they go super defensive, then it's just up to the pilot to stack those channel mount heroics and really utilize them, and the ability to just not get all excited when you get the earth blue and the channel mount in your hand and you just slap it down and then pass turn, arsenaling it and setting it up and getting 2 really good turns out of each one is absolutely the most important part about that deck. And it has the explosiveness to outrace most decks that the game will last at least 5 turns to where you can get to that channel mount heroic. And you always have the ability to play it more mid-rangey, where you can just play a 4 attack each turn, maintain embodiment, and then block, and then wait for the channel mount heroic. If you're playing, against, say, it's kind of like what you're doing with Lexi. Even though you're never playing channel mount heroic, you're just kind of maintaining that embodiment and getting that damage in, and kind of just outlasting that game. But I mean, I think that she has a very good matchup into the best decks. I think is the main reason why I would. She has relevant on hit effects, coax, things like that, snatch, good damage output, and Rune Blade.
So, is there a reason why Briar decks are not running recursion for channel mount heroic?
What do you mean?
They have Pulsive Candlehold. They have.
So tomorrow.
I mean, why aren't they running?
Tomorrow.
Yeah, I run
Remembrance.
I run So Tomorrow and Pulse, which would effectively double your channel count.
Okay.
The problem with that is, right, assuming you never shuffle your deck, right, whether you're on the Sonata train or you're not, let's imagine you So Tomorrow, right? So Tomorrow puts the channel mount heroic back on the bottom of the deck. What else is at the bottom of your deck?
Bunch of blues.
Bunch of earth blues, right? Which is great because you get to keep it. But like your best play, depending on what's happening, is going to be play a blue Autumn's Touch, right, for 8. Mm-hmm. So if you do the So Tomorrow move, you need to stack pitch a couple reds with Go Again to be able to actually utilize it. The beauty about Pulse is it puts it right on top, and you're getting it, and you can either, if you have an earth blue in your hand and you can hold it, you can put a Go Again attack with it, or you can just go ahead and stack it with the blue earth and the channel.
Okay. Did Briar get any cards from the new set?
I love the headpiece, the Crown of Providence. I think it is exactly what that deck needed, because your worst
fear,
bit more right?
Consistency.
Yeah, your worst fear is you draw your 4 cards and there's no attack, right? Well, that is literally a get out of jail free. Depending on the situation. Now it's dependent, they have to attack, right? But even like you draw a hand and it's like, man, if I had just had an earth blue, this hand would be way different. Why not block and just mulligan that card? Like in a lot of cases, it might actually be worth it. So I love that card. Erase Face, I think, is going to be one of the best Majestics in the set. As long as it goes with the plan of the deck, I think it's a great choice. But maybe not for Briar, because she's on the whole 0 attack plan. But
the new defense reaction seems a little bit tailor-made for Briar. Is that all you got? I mean, you end with Rosetta Thorn.
So
Well, you don't always end with Rosetta Thorn, but it seems decent.
yeah, I mean it's good. It's good against Rosetta, 100%. And is it a cause? The thing about the D-React is you have to have somebody that you know is going to be able to take advantage of the card they rip off the top, right? So like Guardian, where any blue, like Showstopper, turns it from a 4-hammer to a 6-hammer, right? Like
yeah, they have to be good at playing with a medium amount of cards. Right?
Exactly.
Okay, sure. All right.
And if you want to give me a card to block 2 damage, I encourage it.
True, but they get to draw cards. But
it's a random card.
That's true. Well, I think that D-React is either going to possibly be the CNC E-Strike of the set, or I don't actually know.
I say race face.
Yeah,
I say
Both,
that.
one of those two, I think,
Yeah.
is the CNC E-Strike of the set.
Sure.
Maybe one is the Tome of Fendel.
There you go.
And the
There
other
you
one
go.
is
There you go.
the other one is the E-Strike of the set.
Yeah.
Okay. All right, Nam. Where does Bravo go?
Well, I think both the Guardians are probably 1.5. I feel like they're both being gatekept by Prism. So
This whole tier is being gatekept by Prism.
that's what it feels like. That's what it feels like, because Bravo has
These
Well,
have something in common.
I mean, both the Guardians have a lot of disruption for all the other decks, like how Kyle was saying. Those decks, like tier 2 decks, don't want to block often, and if you get punished against the Guardian attacks if you don't block, because they're full of disruption. Spinal Crushes just gonna end your whole turn. Crippling Crushes just make you discard cards. The attacks are still very strong. It's just they can't get through all the auras. We don't have enough go against, or even worse, we don't have the action points to keep the board clear. We could still combat Briar, I think, pretty well, because they don't like blocking either, and a timely Spinal Crush or something like that can really slow down their turn.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's how I feel about the Guardians. Both the Guardians, really.
All right, so tell me a little bit about Oldhim.
Oldhim, I think Oldhim is in a slightly better position than Bravo. He
got new cards.
He got a few new cards. I haven't been able to really sit down with all the new ice cards yet, but I know a couple of them are very good. Just from the old cards, I mean, Frostbites are always good. He also has disruption with Oak and Old. His hero ability is still very strong. So I feel like he's up there, and you can build him 2 ways. You can build him very defensive, or you can actually build him aggro with Crown of Seeds and Snapdragons, like how Matt Rogers did previously. So he's kind of that hero that can kind of hide his ability or hide his type of deck with the new, like, I guess that's true with all the Tales of Aria heroes like Lexi as well, because you don't know which
dual element.
You don't know which way he's going to swing. So you kind of have to bank on it when you're selecting your equipment at the very beginning of the game.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Okay. Alex, we haven't heard from you in a while. Which hero would you like to talk about?
Let's do
We've got 9
let's
here.
do Ice Lexi, or just Lexi in general. But do we really need to talk about Lightning Lexi? I'm not sure.
No.
Let's put Lexi in either 1 or 1.5. Not sure. Let's start with 1.5, because I think she's still very, very strong. And her ability to keep up with pretty much any hero in the format is unparalleled as far as an aggro deck goes, because her draws, her ceiling for her draws is very, very high, and her disruption is unparalleled to any other hero in the format, in my opinion. just all of her on-hit effects, and I think she actually got a few new tools that she might be able to use. Remains to be seen whether they're actually usable or not. Cards like Hypothermia, and if you guys could refresh my brain on the card that says when every time you fuse a card, it winners bites your opponent.
Insidious Chill, I think.
Insidious Chill. That sounds right. Yep. So there are cards that she could utilize. Whether she will or not remains to be seen. But her ability to output damage and disruption is just so powerful. I don't foresee any of the new heroes disrupting that. One of her biggest nemesis in Starvo is gone. And she historically can put a trouncing on Prism. So I think that we might see some more Lexi enter the format, depending on how good she is. I don't know how much, I don't know how well she can get through Oldhim, things like that. I'm just not too familiar with actually playing her into decks like that. But in my opinion, I think she's definitely going to be at least in the 1.5 tier, potentially the top tier. She'll definitely be a deck to look out for. Does anybody disagree?
Refresh my memory. Wasn't Lightning Lexi in response to Prism?
Yes.
Prism.
Yes.
Prism becoming popular.
Very
with
good
Prism
into
being
that.
the most popular, why have we just dismissed Lightning Lexi?
Ball lightning.
Yeah, I think her losing Ball Lightning and then also the implementation of the new Ice build, she can output nearly the same amount of damage,
Right.
but she gets all of the disruption as well. So it's just so powerful. Like I wouldn't I would take a 2 to 5 point less per turn damage swing in favor of getting 2 cards out of my opponent's hand or making them play through Frostbites and that sort of thing. I just don't see any reason not to play that sort of play style, but I could be wrong. Like I said, I'm not a Lexi expert, but I have played against her many times, and
Yeah, Yuki's list is like really wide and very aggressive. It is an ice list because there is some ice fusion with like chilling ice veins and stuff like that, but it's not like heavy ice or anything, right?
right.
And she's going to benefit from the exact same thing that Prism is, where she's going to free up some sideboard slots. Like there's no need for a fatigue shot anymore, right? You're probably going to side those out. You could easily fit in 3 remembrances for Oldhim and maybe some 6 poppers for Prism, right? Some battering bolts, something like that. So it kind of, that's the big thing, is which heroes are going to be able to leverage those sideboard slots that were freed up from Chain and Starvo and make the most out of those.
Whoever takes those top dog slots in the format, obviously those sideboard slots will start to fill up accordingly.
Right.
And we'll see, like the bad matchups. Like if you have a bad matchup in the format, you're obviously going to want to side in more cards than a deck that already has a good matchup into that deck and needs to side for other things. So that's where we'll start to see who's really benefiting from the new format.
Yep.
Okay.
Yeah.
I think Kano's right up there too.
Lexi.
Think so?
Probably.
Historically, Kano does not have a good Prism match or Oldhim match or even Briar, arguably, if they're playing the heavier blue count deck, which I'm not sure if they will. But I think Kano's still very powerful deck. And Kyle, where do you think that it would sit on the tier chart?
I think it's probably very high tier 2. It can just steal wins. Like that's just a fact. It just steals wins.
Yeah.
I
don't
mean, we
think it'll
saw
ever
plenty
be
of times
lower
at the
than
Pro
that.
Tour.
Yeah, absolutely.
I think Kano's power is going to be dependent on Icelander's power. Because if Icelander is actually kind of decent and Kano, that means people are going to bring AB.
Here's something to think about, actually.
That's the main thing. It's like, do we bring AB?
Right. And this is actually, Josh, you just kind of sprung something into my mind. There's something we need to think about with Kano is obviously Kano is always dependent on the format itself, right? How much AB is everybody packing? How much blue is everybody packing? And that's directly related to how good Kano does at any specific event. Well, now that we've lost Starvo, the amount of sideboard slots that have opened up might aid the ability to compete against Kano and actually have those extra slots fill up with AB, presenting a problem for Kano. And then also people obviously expecting Icelander. So now you have the threat of 2 different decks that you need to pack AB for that might actually hurt Kano kind of in a roundabout way.
Mm-hmm. Sure. So we'll conservatively put him at tier 2.
I feel like the
For
tier.
now.
I feel like every deck or every hero in the tier 2 is kind of dependent on the pilot and that
Absolutely.
they can still win. Because like if you're not ready for Kano, you're gonna get burned. If you're not ready for Reinar, you're gonna get intimidated. And then for Katsu, if you don't have the block or if you're not
You block the wrong time.
if you no block time, yeah, you're gonna die. They're gonna draw so much advantage over you, and then they're gonna put you in a lock where you can't attack back.
Oh, I mean, we saw like a live example of this situation, right? Kano had the best conversion rate in the Pro Tour, period, by probably 50%.
That's
Like a
that's not
long
true.
shot.
Bolton had the highest.
I
Bolton had the highest.
I meant top 8, not day 2.
I thought you meant day 2.
Yeah,
Okay.
no, top 8. So, and
Yeah.
how many Pro Quests did he win?
Maybe
Like,
one.
2?
maybe.
I
Right?
don't know. I think Justin won 1. I think that was
Because
it.
what happened after the protest or the Pro Tour, right? Everybody put AB in.
And also you have to remember that pro quests are local metas and not national metas. And
Right.
this was a big thing when we went into the Pro Tour. I made sure to let everybody know on the team. I was like, this is not local meta. We have several Kanos in our local meta, so we have to pack AB when we go to like our pro quests.
Right.
But when we go to this big tournament, up here, we have to be packing for the entire format and what we think is going to be and sometimes it's just a hope to just dodge, right? Like
Right.
I'm not going to pack AB. I'm just going to try to dodge. And then that's what they ate up.
Right.
Another thing about the AB, if you're an aggro deck and you're trying to play more defensive with the AB, you're
gonna die anyway.
Well, you're gonna die because you're not playing your game plan anymore. You're losing your what makes your deck good, the aggro style, right? So I was talking to Vor, I was talking to some of the more Kano players, and they actually want you to play more AB because then they know as a good Kano player, they're going to be able to stack their deck and just combo you at the end. And that makes it easier for them. What makes it hard for them is having to stop the aggro and try to set up a kill.
In Hong Kong, there was a discussion that said AB4, AB5 only protects you against bad Kanos.
I mean,
It doesn't actually save you
It's true,
against people that know what they're doing.
I was playing the Oldhim deck over the weekend, and I had AB4 plus Crown, and I still lost to 2 Kanos that day because they were just able to stack their deck. And where if I had any leakage of damage through, they would just kill me off the top of Wildfire into like a red Voltic Bolt that they had stacked several turns ago.
The only exception is Briar because she doesn't need her blues because everything costs 0. So she can present that threat and hold the blue, and plus Shock Charmers is a card.
Shock. That's a powerful card.
That's
Boy.
There's actually another thing I want to talk about related to Kano is that there's a new ninja leg equipment that has AB1 plus it has a bonus, right, from the new set.
Yes.
Eventually we're gonna see like Vexing Quill Hand stuff. Like we're gonna see every hero maybe can run AB3 without needing Null Root anymore. Right? So I guess that's just like, okay, the power of Kano will go up because his card pool will go up, and then the defensive power of decks will go up because they'll have AB1 with a effect as well. So.
Right.
Yeah.
Sounds good.
Okay.
Let's talk about another Prism nemesis. Who here wants to talk about Dash?
I can talk about Dash.
Tier
this is a
2.5
hero
at
that-
best.
Really?
No.
I would
No.
disagree.
Not a chance. Not
That's
a chance.
Oh, okay. Let's
look at the
back
past.
in-
We've all been
it-
gargling
yeah.
on her, and then she shit
Okay.
the bed every time. Here we are.
Okay, so Kyle does have a point that for Everfest, we did say Dash would get 2 tiers better or something like that. I can't remember
Yeah.
what we said. 1 or 2 tiers better.
Mhm.
Before we realized how powerful Starvo was.
But that was before Starvo became, 60% of the meta or something.
Before
like
all hell broke loose.
And 6
So-
belittle chain. Yep.
that. And so the issue Dash had with Starvo, and it's an issue that so when I was originally building Bolton against Starvo, I was like, well, I'm a warrior. I'm a light warrior. I can run every single high-powered defense reaction in the game. I could run unmovable. I could run soul shield. I could run shunt. I ran every single one. That's still not enough.
Yep.
Okay. So controlled dash doesn't even have half the DVX Bolton does. So
Right.
if Bolton gets run over, Dash gets run over.
Yep.
And Dash doesn't have the speed to keep up. And if you get hit with Oaken Old or Crippling Crush, you just have no damage output. Right? So she was oppressed hard by
Right.
Starvo. Also oppressed hard by Chain. Okay, so given the fact that she was oppressed hard, and the fact that we thought she would be good, so now we come to now, where are we gonna put her?
I'm just gonna say one thing. Look at those top 6 heroes, and you tell me how many of those she's not at least 50-50 into.
I think she's great against all 6 of these.
Well, no, she's terrible against Briar, but that's it. Because the argument that she's not bad against Briar is Dissolution Sphere, right, or Signal Jammer cards, but like you can easily play around those because you just don't need to play a bunch of non-attacks. Shuts off your embodiment for a little bit, but you can play around it and you can still present a lot of damage. So, but all the other ones, she's good.
Yeah, she's
great.
excellent against Prism. Very
Destroys
good matchup
Guardians,
against the
yeah.
Guardians.
3 Purifiers, easy.
Uh,
Lexi, she's got all the blues in the world.
yeah, she has a ton of blues. Dorinthea does struggle against Dash if they're equally
Yep.
skilled.
Ass.
Easy
I think-
peasy.
I think the big thing with
Has to.
Dash is she can build 2 different ways, right? Like she
Right.
can build that kind of control-ish way because she blocks incredibly well, and she can also be like a Teklo pounder, get your face kind of thing, and you don't know which version she's going to go towards. Now, granted, one of those is probably going to be way better into whatever meta we're in, right? And one
Right.
of those is not going to be, but like you can get got by the other one if you're
Right.
not
At least she has a
expecting it.
choice.
Right.
At least she has a choice.
Exactly, and I think that's what makes Briar and Prism and Lexi and decks like that so powerful. It's like Lexi could just randomly just play a bunch of lightning cards on you that you weren't expecting, or Briar can do the same. She can play some Cheerios on you, and
Yep.
Prism could all of a sudden just be attacking you with Phantasmaclasms for 1 billion damage. Like you just never know, and I think there's a lot to be said for decks that can do that.
Sure.
I-
Let's get Kyle's perspective on this, since he's the voice
I'm-
of dissonance here.
He's the haterade.
I just want to be a hater, even if I lose something, but it still sucks.
All right. Tell us a little bit about your thought
I
process
just-
on.
Like Katsu, for example, like Reinar, I think she's 2-dimensional. That's why she couldn't beat Chain. That's why she couldn't beat a lot of the other decks. I just don't feel like she's that threatening to play against. I've never felt like that, and I don't think it changes now.
So
That's just my 2 cents.
when
Do you
I
think it's because
originally
we
started,
don't have many Dash in our area?
No, not at all.
so
I just-
when I originally started playing, Dorinthea and Dash were the queens of CC, and so if the game goes back to a fair meta, these 2 heroes should be like. If you think about it, we've had Chain, and then we had Briar, and then we had Starvo.
Mhm.
There was for the last 3 metas, there has been a deck that was
Suppressed her.
overtuned, to say the least. The CRU meta, these 2 heroes represented traditional values of Flesh and Blood. If we go back to if this metagame is balanced and there's no oppressive hero and there's lots of viable heroes, then these 2 heroes should shine.
Right.
Because their fundamentals are strong. They're not overbearing. That's my
I think they also prey on newer players. So if we get like a influx of newer players, decks like Dorinthea and Dash, if you don't have, good blocking mechanics in your mind, and you're unsure of like threat assessment level, I think that they really, really prey on newer players.
Dory punishes you for bad tactics, and Dash punishes you for bad strategy.
Exactly.
The only thing that's got me iffy on Dash is we're talking about how all these sideboard slots are freed up, and there's
Smashing Good Time.
this card called Smashing Good Time, and that's why I won't play her, is because I'm not going to get the PTSD associated with thinking every single Arsenal card is a Smashing Good Time. and like, just like if you sit across from a Rune Blade that has creepers, like every attack is a threat. Like, you can't not block anything, and it just
You're like, oh, here comes a plunder run. Oh.
yeah, it's just like the worst thing ever. So even the Guardians, like Arsenal is Smashing Good Time, hit them with a Macho Grande for 11, and if they don't have a D-React, a tall one, that's it. You hit the Purifier, and now Rampart just cleans it up the rest of the way, right? So that's the thing, right? She's going to have an answer for Smashing Good Time, and if she can solve that, if it's something as simple as like Chains of Imminence and literally calling the card out, maybe that's what she's got to do. I don't know, but she's going to have, if she ever takes up a large percentage of the meta, like 20, 25%, that card's coming out. And unfortunately for her, there's 9 copies of it.
Yep.
I think you go Teklo Pounder and go boost aggro and don't rely on your
right
pistol reload mechanics. Yeah.
I'm glad you
But
brought up
that
Chains
takes
of
away
Imminence.
her whole advantage, right?
Yeah.
Her whole advantage is being able to sit back and pistol. That's why you play Dash. So, but we'll see on that.
We will. I think Boost Dash is moderately viable, but it's clearly weaker than Control Dash. But just the fact that she can go either way is
I think she's gonna be a very good like week 1 deck, like the beginning of the meta. I think no one's gonna be playing Smashing Good Times. It's gonna be a dead card in their deck if
Diamond me.
I'm going to
3 red.
no matter where we put her, I think we have to put her next to Dory, in my opinion. Like
Dory's
these
tier 2, then I don't know what to tell you.
Yeah, 1.5.
No, she's staying at 1.5 for now. Unless this gets really long, then I'll move her down here.
There's a reason my binder has a slot. For that card.
It's happening.
We're just waiting for Dash to become a threat, and
Never gonna simmer back down.
Oh, I have plenty.
Also, side note, against those wizards, Smashing Good Time hits potions.
also against the Wizards, Dash has
amulet.
15 Arcane Barrier.
Yep.
That is true. She is one of the best Arcane Barrier suites in the game. Let's talk about Viscerai.
Okay, Nathan.
Is he 2.5? Is he 2?
So if there's a lot of Guardian in the meta, he's 2.5. If there's not that much Guardian in the meta, then he's 2. The main problem that he has to overcome, once again, which may be able to, with sideboard slots freeing up, you may have the ability to like run a remembrance package, but just when you're running a package of like 9 Mavrian Skies, and if that card that it's attached to is blocked, then you're playing 9 cards in your deck, and all they did was give your attack go again, which means the threat density of that deck is probably the worst in the game.
Yep.
On a card if you just add up all the damage within the deck and take away all the on-hit effects, there's probably like 50, 60 damage in that deck. because you're not running ninth plate anymore. Like, how are you even playing it, right? So that's the problem. If we get into a meta where nobody's blocking, oh yeah, red and mauve into a meet and greet, something like that. Yeah, that's gonna force people to block. But even then, it's just a telegraphed Katsu, right, with no reactions, right?
Mm-hmm.
So
I think that's the problem, is it just doesn't have the reactionary suite that it needs to push through those on-hit effects.
Too predictable.
Yep, that's the problem.
Too predictable.
I would, unfortunately, even though that's my baby, I gotta put him at 2.5s.
2.5s.
At least he's not Azalea.
That's a fact. But he's the
right.
best. He's the best 2.5. Don't let them.
Don't let Levia take it.
No, hell no.
Tier
Her
3.
food dried up.
2.5.
He had a cute
All right.
strategy in the Starvo, and that dude's gone.
Yeah, so Levia had a very, very niche position in the previous metagame, in that she could play low blood debt control style against Starvo, and with the Husk could do decently.
Yep.
Could also return damage with Pummel, which would be very, very annoying for
I mean, she was playing as a Rhinar with Karen.
With a Husk.
She has Husk. That's a card.
Identity crisis.
mhm. Any other thoughts on her?
No, her food dried up. She's gone.
She's missing something. She's like missing
She's
a
like
few cards.
right. She's there, but she's not like there just yet.
The thing is like with Levia, right? You've got all these decks that are presenting. I mean, like, look at the decks we're talking about, like Briar and Prism and Lexi and Dash and Dorinthea. Like, there's so many damage like centric decks, and when Levia gets put on the back foot and can't do anything to banish a card for her turn, she just dies. And that's the problem, is she doesn't have that like consistent way to shut it off when she's being like, she has to take damage to keep cards. And I don't think this is a format where you'll have that luxury just to take a hit to the face so that you can return a pummeled 6 attack or whatever it is.
A lot of players were kind of shelling her to be kind of like a worse Bravo, where they were just playing a whole bunch of pummels and just trying to hit you with a big attack plus pummel.
Yeah, except Bravo has a hammer.
Exactly, he has a hammer. It's for 6 instead of 4.
His stick is bigger.
His stick is bigger.
He's got a big old stick, and it's a lot bigger. Yes, for sure.
I think the brute decks are just missing on hits. I mean,
Yes.
they don't have their abilities are pretty strong. Like, Intimidate's really good, but it lacks the disruption.
Well, the brute classes are built around the fact that their attacks are higher rate.
Right.
So their on-hit effect is damage.
Right.
Their on-hit effect is I
See-
kill you faster.
But Guardian just does that better.
Yep.
Because it has the big attack with an on hit.
With
And
They don't
Guardian-
have an on-hit effect. They have a pre-hit effect.
Sure.
Like, that's so if you start to give them on-hit effects with a pre-hit effect, then they might be too good.
Guardians don't kill themselves.
Exactly.
So,
Right.
Guardians also have shields.
2.5.
All right, now we're back to Bolton. Where
Bolton.
So actually, I want to talk about Icelander and then Bolton, because I really think he's the way his Raiden deck is built, the way his combo deck is built. It's very, very fragile against ice. It's very, very fragile against ice. So, and I don't actually think that currently there's a solution if ice becomes a dominant part of the meta for Bolton. So where are we gonna put Icelander first, and then I'll
Tier
talk
3.
about Bolton.
No.
2.5. 2.5. Like I'm serious. Like top of 2.5. Or bottom of 2.
Why?
I'm thinking two. That's what I'm
I-
thinking. All right, hold on. Let's everybody give their initial impression.
All right,
And
who's
we'll
going
try.
first?
We'll try to talk this out. I'm just gonna say 2. That's my
So-
initial impression.
So who's going first? Who's going to talk it out?
I'll go first. I know
Yep.
nothing about ice.
I
I got
second
nothing.
this. I second this.
I know nothing.
Okay.
That's all I got.
All right. Well, Nam and I did have the luxury of at least playing against her already in the Uprising World Premiere, and seeing how she plays.
I actually played 0 of them.
Oh,
Well,
I played 4. So maybe I should be talking
all
about it
you.
just a little bit more.
Well,
but
I played one. I played the young hero in the Blitz event, and I drew the 10% of my deck where I just killed her very fast. I got to Okino.
I remember that.
Twice in a row.
Yeah, but I think so. So her ability, right? It revolves around having an arsenal slot, and
A blue arsenal.
yes, like a very specific arsenal slot, which is how she performs, at her peak. And I think that that's just going to be a hindrance in a format with command and conquers and anything that interacts with your hand. Or
Well, no, she just plays it out as in an instant.
yes,
Right.
but if that threat, like she needs to get max value out of that arsenal slot. So that arsenal slot is there to be timed appropriately.
Right.
So what I'm hearing from like talking to people that are testing with Icelander and actually looking at the card pool just a little bit. Now, granted, I'm still way behind the curve on card knowledge for her pool. So if I'm wrong, I apologize. But she has this card called Frost Hex, or it's her specialization card. I think that's what it's called.
Yep. Frost Hex.
It basically says that when a Frostbite would pop at the beginning of the end phase, so at this phase where it's not interactable, that you take a damage or whatever, because Frost Hex
It's an affliction, right?
is an
One of the
affliction
affliction
for your
ones?
opponent. Yes.
Yeah.
And so if I'm afflicted with a Frost Hex and I have 2 Frostbites, they'll pop at the end of the turn, I'll take 2 damage, and then if I have 2 Frost Hexes, then I take 4 damage or whatever. They'll start to stack, right? And that's kind of her thing, is like, I'm assuming this is how she's going to play out, where like she's doing chip damage, with arcane spells, attacking you, trying to get cards out of your hand with things like Fire Breathing or Exude Confident or whatever it is that she's attacking you with. And then she's playing these cards from her arsenal that's just kind of disrupting you, not letting you do enough on your turn. So she's having the disruption, and then she's presenting just a little bit of damage here and there. But her main goal is just, I think, trying to survive so that she can get these Frost Hexes out and do things like that. So she's just trying to be annoying, essentially.
I like her headpiece. The new headpiece, Cornet's Peak. Pay 3, they pay 1 or discard a card or something like that.
Right.
You're just getting guaranteed value just off of that. This is very annoying, and like
So,
I feel like
The
that
Winter's
card
Bite
presents a
on a stick.
lot for her. I think that card presents a lot for her.
She does have a very annoying suite of things that she can do. But what I found in the world premiere, whether this is going to be true in CC, I don't know yet, because obviously it's a much longer game and she can afford to take more damage, that sort of thing, is when you get her off of her arsenal slot and then you present a lot of damage on the next turn, the game is over. Because she cannot get the arsenal slot back because she feels forced to block, and if she doesn't block, she takes 15 damage. And she already has a lower life pool, and she needs to play a longer game. So I don't know how she recovers from that effectively if her opponent is just keeps bashing, like decks like Prism, decks like Briar, decks like Lexi, Dash, like any of these decks, or even Dorinthea, right? Like they just keep pressuring her arsenal, like to not let her get that slot, and this just makes it hard for her to recoup and come back at you. Now, I could be thinking about that incorrectly, but that's what I found in the event, and I just don't know if that's good enough to get there consistently. Don't know what she's got to do to push through. So my initial thoughts is that she's somewhere in the middle, because I think she will present some problems for some decks, but I also think that she's better than Azalea and Levia and Viscera and these kinds of things. But I don't know
her
if she has like
baseline. She's a
finisher.
higher HP wizard with access to Storm Striders, so you can still do like the reason Kano has 15 health in Blitz and 30 in CC is because he gets an extra turn, right? Icelander still retains a lot of that. I get an extra turn with the Storm Striders, but she
you
has,
don't get cards like Blazing
36?
Aether.
That's true. So you don't have Blazing Aether, you don't have Lesson in Lava, but you do have that Frost thing.
Right. I think
Unclear
that
at
was
the moment.
that was the threat of Kano, is right. Like if they chip away at you, and then all of a sudden they have 2 turns to kill you. They have your turn and then their turn, and they can kill you on 2 turns and just rip the blues out of your hand to try to set that up. So with her, on the other hand, her arcane damage I think is much weaker, and she doesn't have access to those huge combo kill turns.
Trash.
Which,
All right,
okay,
Nathan,
I've
let's see
spoken
you.
my mind. That's where I think.
Nathan
All right.
would put her here, huh?
I'd put her behind Viscera.
Sebastian wants to play
he's-
her. I think he thinks
Yeah.
totally different of the hero.
I would love to hear what he's.
I really would love to hear Sebastian. We'll get him on video at once
Well,
he builds. We'll
Look at the number 1 spot. Once again, that's how I'm evaluating, is like, how do they rank against those top 2 sections, right? Because that's who you're going to be playing against.
Right.
All right. You give Prism 2 frostbites. You've actually helped her. Now she doesn't need anything in soul to swing all her auras at you.
Yes.
So that's a free win, right?
And merciful retribution, right?
Just all of it. Like, I mean, it's just a disaster all across the board, right? And then you look at Briar, who has a bunch of blues she don't need, right? And a bunch of free cards. Like, there's just no way, right?
And shock charmers.
And shock charmers, all right? And then look at the 2 underneath those that have
Blue-based guardians.
65% of their deck is blue. Okay,
and they can go to AB4 if they
and
want.
then
Or
let's scoot down one. Oh, you have the most disruptive deck in the format that actually does damage. Who would have known? And that can clear frostbites with her bow on Icelander's turn, if or any are produced on that turn.
Yep.
Right. Then Dash. What's half her deck? Blue.
Blues.
Dory.
And she has the best AB suite in the game.
Yeah, and then Dory. All right, it's going to be a pain in the ass for Dory, but that's that's.
But
and she dies. To
there's
Kano
no
'cause-
D reacts in Arsenal, probably, right?
Yeah, and she's gonna die to Kano, because Kano is just gonna react to whatever she does and then just blow her up. He's gonna stack pitch and just handle business, right?
Yeah.
So literally 7 or 8 of the top 7 decks she is unfavorable into. I'm not saying she is bad, like on a fundamental basis. I kind of am, actually.
I'm
But
also-
Yeah, you are. Yeah.
There's also another
Yeah.
very important point here, is that if you look at the last 3 broken heroes, they were all very easy to pick up and play
Right.
at a base level.
Yeah, this one is not going.
I
to be.
I don't think you can pick up Icelander and play her at her potential without quite a few
No.
reps.
Now-
That's why I would put her in 2.5 instead
with
of
that being said, nothing would make me happier than Seb figuring something out and breaking the game. Like, hell yeah, if he does that, I'll play it, right? And I've never touched an ice deck before.
I think she will
Oh.
be very fun to play, and I think she will attract a lot of players because there's a lot of like thinking and like interaction and cool like little instant speed tricks and things. That's the kind of deck people gravitate towards.
And now there's 2 wizards, so there's more AB fundamentally in the game. Yeah.
Exactly, which I think is great because screw wizards.
Yep.
I hate them.
Okay, so
All right, Bolton.
Yeah, Bolton,
with
man.
with these being here,
Like a mid 2, right?
I probably high 2 because
High 2, yeah.
Bolton is never going to be bad.
yeah, he
Oh,
has
he's not-
decent matchups against.
Probably Briar's the worst match, right?
Yeah, so I'm thinking if I go combo Bolton,
Briar's control.
yeah, Briar always was an issue.
How is
man.
how is Bolton into like Prism and Dash?
Ash is fine, I think.
Against Prism, you kind of have to be
Raiden, right?
well, ideally, now actually because of the slot release, I think you can go back to Switch.
Okay.
And I think Raiden Bolton is fine against Prism.
Mhm. I
Even
would agree.
combo Bolton was like you had to be a little brave against Prism as combo Bolton. Sometimes you just had to go for it, even if there was a risk. Against Dash is just not like boost Dash possibly can get there, but they have to have a godlike turn.
Couldn't you just fatigue her though?
As Bolton, how would you fatigue Dash as Bolton?
Well, if she's boosting all her cards away.
That's not something I've tried.
I think it's really hard to fatigue Dash with how efficient the pistol is.
Well, the problem is if you're on the hardcore boost strategy, you are going to boost away those items.
Absolutely.
Like that's gonna happen. So yeah, you might stumble on induction chamber. Maybe.
That's actually something I haven't considered.
But if you have 2 induction chambers on the board and you pitch 2 blues a turn, you're not using any resources and you're presenting like 9 damage a turn.
Yeah.
That's true.
In general, I just try to combo because
that's probably right.
They basically have to have a godlike turn, and even if they have a godlike turn, they barely get there. So,
all her cards are attacks anyway, so all your stuff is +1.
That's also true. Yeah. So I think Bolton is fine against Dash.
Yep.
In general, I think the switch style is actually fine against most of these. I really don't like playing against either of the Guardians. Or sorry, not Bravo's fine, but either of the Ice Heroes here. They're very, very, very tricky matchups. I'm going to put him high tier too. I think
I agree with
he didn't get any new cards, but freeing up a couple sideboard slots means you can go back to switch style, or you can remain with combo. I think pure combo is actually fine, or switch is fine against this top tier.
I concur.
The only issue is that you have very few blues,
right?
And you have very so if the Ice Heroes or the Wizards get popular, you're gonna suffer. But I think at the moment, because the Wizards are here and the Ice Heroes are here, and just the makeup of the metagame, I think he's a high tier too.
Okay. So let's leave Dromai for last. Let's do 5 first. Kyle, what are your first impressions?
It's a new ninja. That's my first impression. Is a new ninja, and I get to have fun again.
So what makes this ninja different from your Katsu?
I don't have to present on-hit effects to get a lot of other effects.
Okay.
It just relies on chain links, and that's being able to
4.
Counting to 4, exactly. You can have if you have access, like all 3 of your Phoenix Flames, you have access to threatening mask probably twice. Or I mean, if you have some crazy stuff with like Toma Firebrand, you can possibly puke out maybe 8 or 9 attacks.
Well, let's not get crazy here. Mask is 1 per turn.
Well, you could threaten.
Well, yeah, when you stop it, I can do it again. So like you're gonna stop the mask threat, and then I'm gonna do it again, and you're gonna try to stop the mask threat, and I'm gonna be like, route for ninja, haha, and you're gonna be like, oh no, and then here we are.
What about a direct comparison? What about a direct comparison, like weapon versus like actual card pool? What do you think? Like, which one would you prefer to play?
I would prefer to play Fi, for the sole reason that it's new. It's just new. I'm just so excited to play a new ninja.
Good answer.
It's new cards.
I don't want to play with you anymore.
Yeah, literally, that's the meme. I like the rupture mechanic. This deck is very easily going to Chainlink 4, and things like Breaking Point, things like Rise Up, present some pretty neat things, and Chainlink 8 is pretty cool. So I think that's neat, and so you don't have to hit anything to do that, which is pretty cool. So
right. Here's one more topic to ask you a question about with Fi. Obviously, there was one card in particular that LSS didn't think deserved to be in the card pool for the release of this new set. and that was the arm piece that gives +1 to all your attacks this turn.
Oh no, that's legal in CC.
Oh, it's legal in CC. That was just Blitz.
Just
I'm
Blitz.
I'm legitimately playing Sunday Hammers and 3 Art of Wars in my deck.
That makes more
Fuck with
sense.
me.
Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So with the lack of on-hit effects, do you believe that Fi with its longer chain links is going to be better, worse, or about the same as Katsu?
Depending on how the format looks, as far as like the top three decks or so, would depend on which one I think would be better. But long term, I do think if someone figures out a consistent way to have access to all of the Phoenix Flames, I think that deck is infinitely better.
Okay.
I think the chess piece is really good. I think the new Shuko arm piece is pretty good.
Agreed.
Tide Flippers goes with that too. There's another card I'm trying to think of. I'm still iffy on the Fabled with the deck.
Okay.
But it could have niche scenarios where it would help the deck, but I just think Art of War is probably better in that to do kind of the similar thing that card's doing at a cheaper
I think
price
+1
too.
to a bunch of attacks is quite good.
Well, for sure. So I play Art of War.
So speaking of Art of War, that I consider Art of War as a pseudo attack reaction,
Definitely
honorable mention for attack reactions. So as a warrior player, I have access to a lot of attack reactions, obviously. But one of the things that I liked about Ninja, and that's why that's my off class, is that they actually have access to the most attack reactions. They have Ancestral, they have Razor, and Art of War, right? Even though those are two of those three are generics, they're still widely used, right? But
Lunging press.
lunging press. But in the new set, we saw that Ninja got a couple of additional attack reactions. So now actually he's actually becoming like Ninja, especially Fi, is becoming a bit harder to defend. And one of the things about Warrior and Ninja is that if you don't defend properly, you get punished really hard. So one of the things I like about Fi is that I think that if you have a strong, consistent build and you're a good pilot, like people are gonna, like, especially early in the format, people are gonna mess up in terms of blocks, and you're gonna get to punish them quite heavily for that. So
Yep.
Yep.
And that piece that says you can't prevent damage on the second attack
Shuko,
might just
Tiger Shuko something.
might just be more powerful than we give
Card's
it credit
very good.
for.
Card's very good.
And blocks for 2. Like,
all right, so Kyle,
more do you
where are
need,
we
right?
putting them?
Too.
So where are we putting this? Yeah.
Tier 0.
Ha.
Does not exist.
I
Oh.
kid. I can see it being all the tier 2 decks. I would put it like a low tier 1.5.
Well, like
That's just me.
1.5.
There you go.
Okay.
Okay. I was expecting Nam to say that, but you had to say it. Okay.
No, I'm asleep.
Yeah. I'd put it at low tier 1.5 right now. Of course, we don't know anything about these new heroes. And it could be, I mean, hell, it could be insane. We don't even know, or it could just shit the bed. We don't know. But current, ideas lead it to be pretty good. So
I think he'll have a lot of success early in the RTN season.
Yeah.
And then once people figure out, like, oh shit, I need to wait till the third attack to actually block.
Yep.
So that way it prolongs the mask for as long as possible.
Yeah.
And they have to get to Chainlink 6 to threaten it again. I think once people catch on to like those nuances in the deck, I think the deck will kind of have to change its identity a little bit and figure out, okay, like maybe less attack reactions, because, like every attack reaction in that deck is one less chain link.
Yep.
And that's something that's the ratio that deck's going to have to figure out on what's appropriate. So I think a lot of early success, it'll peter out, it'll reinvent itself, and then have more success.
And it has access to Liquefy.
Yep. Good card.
It can kill Rampart and Crown of Seeds. Fuck Oldhim.
To play off of you're talking about early success in the format, for all of my Magic players out there. Anytime there's a new format in Magic, there's always one deck that always ends up doing well the very first week, and it's mono red, because everybody is starting to experiment with all these new decks. Nobody knows exactly how to build their deck, and so the decks that come along and absolutely destroy those decks are the decks that just do damage and go fast, vroom vroom. So decks like Briar and Lexi and things like that, I think are going to be great week one. But one thing we have in Flesh and Blood that Magic did not have was Oldhim. Oldhim is kind of that gatekeeper for decks that like to go vroom vroom. And so I think all of those decks are still going to do very well. I think Fi is no exception. I think Fi, if somebody can figure out a really good fast zoom deck with Fi, then they're going to do fairly well. They might struggle against the decks like Oldhim, but who knows? Oldhim might struggle against the Fi to start with because they're not sure how to block him. You know,
Right.
like they don't have that like oh, I'm playing against Ira, Crown of Seeds, Rampart, Prevent, Crown of Seed. You know, like do all of the things that they just do every time somebody tries to attack them. And so I think that some of these nuances are going to come into play on that first week or two.
Yeah. People are going to be really rewarded for knowing how to block very well coming up very soon.
Yep.
You have to
That
work
is
on
a
your
fact.
fundamentals, as Josh always wants us to
Yes.
do.
It's
Yes.
becoming more and more important.
Yes, your fundamentals are very important in this
That's the
game.
best snip in this whole video. Just toss the rest away. Just
Yeah,
listen to that
that's
over and
it.
over again.
So,
Learn how to block.
That's
All
it.
right, where are we putting the mother of dragons?
Oh,
Dexy
man.
Trap tier 3.
It's not that bad, but it's bad.
I'll say 2.5 at the bottom.
And again,
Man, I've
we
been-
could be totally wrong, but
Yes.
Why
off
is
of
it
first?
2.5 at the bottom?
I can take this one first.
Please do.
I can't
The-
wait for all the comments roasting
Oh,
us.
man.
Oh, I'm so
Okay.
excited.
So when I read the Blitz deck description, it said control combo, and I'm an old school Viscera player, or not old school, but like indie before he got destroyed, and like that's like right up my alley, right? That's the deck. And so I've been looking into everything. I've just been just reading and trying to figure something out. And the main problem is just everything has Phantasm, like everything. Or I'll take that back. The stuff that you care about has Phantasm, right?
Right.
And like, there's the counter argument of, oh, well, that's what Ghostly Touch is there for, right? Well, that's a valid argument, but it's going to win some early games. But when good players start to figure out, like, let's use this situation. Let's say that Dromai is playing against a Briar or a Dash that has access to like 6 poppers, right? Which is probably pretty average, right? For like an aggro deck that stays low to the ground. You're going to get 6 counters on Ghostly Touch and be able to attack for 6 every single turn, right? Well, if I'm a good player and I'm playing against Dromai and I'm worried about the Ghostly Touch win con, I'm never going to use my last popper. I'm always going to pitch it. And then when I see it in the second cycle after you have all your counters on your Ghostly Touch, I'm just going to keep it in my hand and literally just not let you utilize that win con, right? Because the second you attack with it, it has Phantasm and I destroy it. Okay?
The equipment gets destroyed.
It gets blown up. It's gone. It's donezo. And so that's why I don't consider that a win con, right? That piece of equipment.
Can't
So
they
the-
combine that with that blue 3-cost remove Phantasm? Wouldn't they combine it with that?
They could.
Oh, in theory, yeah.
I mean, yeah, they could. The only issue that you're going to run into there is like it costs 3 to attack. The
Right.
card that does it is
Yeah.
a blue, and it costs a whole blue. So that's 3 blues in that situation in a deck that thrives on red. So sure, like that's okay. And if that's how they're going to play the game, then they're going to be waiting for that card, and I'm be presenting damage that they're going to have to block. And I'm okay with that. The only strategy that I've seen is viable is to run all the red D reacts, the 0 cost, and literally
Play the leg.
block. Yep, you block out, you
Yep.
block out, you pitch for footsteps every single day or every single turn to create ash or like a little attack on your turn or something like that. pitch all your dragons to the bottom, and then have like 3 or 4 turns where you're just doing nothing but summoning dragons and getting those on hit effect. You got the snatch dragon, you got the extra action point dragon, you got the,
and that sounds like combo control. You control until you combo off.
Yeah. Exactly. The only thing is, right, she doesn't have anything like Viscera had the fridge. Viscera had, he didn't need to inefficiently pitch cards to generate the resources he needed, right? She's pitching a whole red to block with footsteps to block 1 damage to gain 1 ash. Whereas Viscera would just play Read the Runes and gain 3. On an efficiency standpoint, that is on 2 separate scales, right? And that's where she's really going to have to figure something out. And from just a baseline, right, that is a deck that by definition and design mechanically can never dominate a format, because if she ever rises, the amount of poppers increase in the sideboard, right? And that is like, it's not like one card that if it hits, it hinders the deck. It's literally blow up any dragon for free.
Also, if you attack any of these allies, it's counted as a hit. So like anything that's on hit, you just get extra value from.
Yep. So Briar can snatch into a dragon with go again, draw a card, force of nature. Like, you want to talk about
hit a CNC, kill their
glistening steel blade.
Fucking exactly, Josh. Exactly.
Like,
exactly.
Literally, channel Mount Heroic force of nature, and you got 4 dragons out.
Goodbye.
I'm gonna loop it. Like, that's it, and then the game's over. Like, I'm literally just going in. I'm gonna clear your board and kill you, and that's just it.
Like, I hope it's better than what we're expecting, but I
don't think it's 2.5. I think she has a spot to where she can do some cute stuff into very particular decks with a very good pilot. I would put her at like the bottom of 2 is kind of where I'd hang her out. But so that's with a decent pilot.
So the one of the current builds that I've seen is using a Phantasm Go Again as your starter, like
Spears of Reality.
Spears of Serality, right?
Yep.
And then giving them a choice whether they pop it or not, and then deciding on what you want to do with your dragons after that. Because you can only use your footsteps on illusionist attacks, right? So, there might be I think that the deck has to be built in a particular way where you're trying to bait out 6 power cards to break Phantasm. It actually might become an attrition war, because if you have 40 cards as Phantasm and they have 30 cards with 6 power, eventually they run out, right?
That's actually a really good point, because I played an Oldhim match against her, which theoretically would be the counter, and I was monitoring the deck size throughout the match. We actually stayed even until I could like fuse Oakenold with the pitch sack. But
it's a similar thought to, okay, you're a Guardian, you have 15 D reacts. Well, I'm Dory, I have 24 attack reacts. So eventually you will have 0 and I will have some number of attack reacts left. Right. So you might be able to build her in such a way that it's like you're holding, like, you might be able to build her as an illusionist and not a draconic illusionist, even though that sounds kind of weird. Is that you're blue based, and then you have your go again illusionist attack, and then you have a follow-up attack. If they break it, you just go with your follow-up attack. If they don't break it, well, now you have an extra energy for, I don't know, but you have an extra energy just in case, I guess. Because the illusionist card pool has gotten to a point where there's a decent amount of stuff. I'm pretty sure you could get 20 blues and 40 not heralds, but 40 illusionist attack cards with Phantasm, and then just basically play an attrition game, saying, all right, I will block with 2 or 3 cards, maybe 1 card, depending on what my hand
and then
is.
just have Ghostly Touch as a backup win con.
Yeah,
And then-
you'll have to figure out the correct number of dragons to play. I think that's going to be very important because of how red the deck is. That being able to pitch all of the red dragons, like Nathan was talking earlier, pitch those to the bottom, create ashes, and set up for that second cycle where you start to go off with those dragons. The ability of that deck to block to be able to get there is going to be so crucial, and you're going to have to try to figure out which dragons are more important for that late game cycle, and thinking of, you have to be thinking about that late game plan. And I know most of the cards block for 3, but when you're talking about decks like Fi or decks like even Katsu or Bolton, or these decks that are attacking you for 1 or 2 points of damage with Go Again, blocking so inefficiently with your 3 blocks from hand, considering your armor suite is not that good. And then if you ever lose your boots, like, what do you do? I'm struggling to see. It just sounds very difficult to put together.
Yeah, it has to be the in-game dragon, and the strategy is going to be to watch the opponent's pitch stack. And as long as they don't have Crown of Seeds, as long as you make it to the second cycle, you can tell how many poppers they have left in deck, and you can kind of track mentally where they are and the cards associated with them, and you can say, okay, this is a turn I know for a fact they do not have a popper. Okay, Ghostly Touch for 9. Go again. Right? Like, it's the or now you can just lead with your biggest dragon because
Right.
Wasn't there a card that allowed you to see their hand?
There is
Phasmoplasm?
It's played from Arsenals, like Frontline Scout or something.
Frontline Scout.
No, it's an item from Everfest.
Searing Potion.
Seeing Potion or something like that.
Oh, that's a good thought. Yeah, you can see if they have a popper, and
if they don't, then you attack with your giant arm thing.
Look at that. Yeah.
I don't
get down with it.
I don't know.
Look at you, Josh.
Look at that.
Ideas. You don't even
Solving the
got
meta.
videos.
Solving the meta.
Solving the meta. Now let's solve how does Dromai survive for 15 turns.
Yeah, that's the real puzzle. But as just one little quick comment on just overall, one thing that I really wanted to point out that I love with this picture is, I know there's a lot of people hyped about the new heroes. They love them. They want to try them out. They want to break the game. But look at where good players think these heroes are. None of them are tier 1.
Thank God.
This, I think, which it may make some players mad, right? Because people are like expecting power creep, something like that. But I think this set is actually balanced. And it's okay for LSS to release a hero that's 2.5 or a 2.
I think it was built for the sealed and draft format.
Right, which is perfectly fine.
Which is great, because that's what we need. And it does, the set does, not every card game needs new heroes to come out to take that tier 0 slot every time the new set comes out. Agreed.
Absolutely. So just looking at this picture and the fact that none of them are anywhere close to the top, which we could be wrong. That's totally possible.
Totally wrong. I've been wrong before.
But what I can guarantee is that not 1-3 of those will be 60% of what Starvo was. I can guarantee that.
Yep.
None of these are going to get
none of these say +2 dominate Go Again, so
none of these will be a living legend by the end of the year, is what I'm saying. Like, none of them.
And I think it's
that's
very
good.
very, very important for the people at home listening to this to know how, like, our thought process on making a tier list like this for you guys is not we went and played 100 games with all of these heroes and came back and have a conclusion. This is, we read the set list for the most part. We don't even know all of the cards, and we gave our initial impression of how these cards are going to interact together with the cards that already exist. And that's a very difficult thing to do as the card pool increases. So it's very important to know that there are 2 heroes that left, 3 heroes that came in, and a whole new set of rules that are going to be CC. CC is just going to be a wide open scape, But I think we still have some gatekeepers like Prism and Oldhim and decks like that that are going to just be staples of Flesh and Blood CC for quite a while. Any new deck that comes
I
in is
think
going to have
Prism
to.
is going to be gone pretty soon.
It probably will be. It's very, very likely. I think it needs like 150 points. Probably.
Something like that.
It's
You
potentially
can probably get that in the RTN season.
very, very possible. But I'm just saying this to let people know, like, we're not, trying to discount any hero. Like, if you're sitting there and you're trying to build a Dromai deck, don't feel discouraged that we put it in tier 2. We encourage you to try to break that deck.
Be
and
the pioneer. That's
make
right.
us wrong.
Right.
Because we
Please.
want to see those decks. We would
Yeah.
love to see Dromai up there at the top tables, like with a new innovative list. That would make us very, very happy. So don't feel discouraged. This is just our first impressions. We think that there's a lot of room for change to this tier list.
If I can play an 8-round tournament and play against 8 different heroes, that just makes me happy.
That just sounds like a good time.
That
Like,
sounds
it
like a
literally-
good time.
That sounds
It
like a good
literally
time.
does.
And that's going to reward a good player too, because you're going to have to know how to play against every single one of those heroes, and you're
Exactly.
going to have to have built your deck to not just ultimately lose to all of those heroes. So I think that's going to be a good healthy format.
Diversity.
And another thing here is I think the gap between tier 1 and 1.5 is actually not as large as before.
Agreed.
For sure.
These two, we like in the old format, we said, okay, these 3 heroes are the pillars of the format, right? These 2 are just a bit better than the other 6 heroes.
Yeah.
They're, all the 1.5 decks can handle, can do well, I think, at any given tournament.
And I think any one of these decks on this list can win a single match other than Azalea.
That's true. Yep.
But
Exactly.
anybody got any final comments on this current tier list? What you hope to see? Maybe something we didn't cover on a certain hero, or
We're 100% accurate. Nobody can tell me otherwise.
okay, that's a fact.
You heard it here.
Well, let's go ahead and wind this one. Oh, you got something, Nathan?
No, I was just gonna say dragons.
Oh,
Cool
dragons.
shit.
Yeah, I mean they're cool.
Dragons are pretty cool.
Yeah, but they're cool.
I like dragons.
This set is I think it's going to be a sealed draft and collector's paradise.
Yeah.
So
For sure.
get out there, buy your Uprising boxes from your local game store, guys.
Support them, yep.
Support the local game store. I think this set's going to be a ton of fun to do draft and sealed with. If you haven't done that or don't plan to do it, get out there, do some pre-releases. Get ready for nationals and RTN season. I think it's going to be an absolute blast. We really, really appreciate you guys watching this. I know this is a longer video, but it's a completely new format, so we had a lot to talk about. And I think every player on TheCardGuyz and every player on any team out there, or any player that you like to follow, I think is going to surprise you this season, maybe with some special cool techs or some cool decks. So I think it'll be great for coverage and great for the community, to get involved and try to brew up cool decks and talk about new ideas and see if we can put these like crappy talismans and potions to use. And I think it's going to be a lot of cool things, though. But we really appreciate you guys watching. Check out our links in the description, like I mentioned at the beginning of the video. We will see you guys in the next one, and thanks for watching.
Yeah.